Hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel Hasty Books. I'm Camilla, and today we're just gonna have a small discussion about the upcoming announcement of the shortlist for the Women's Prize for Nonfiction, a list that I've been enjoying so far. I've only finished 4 of the 16 books. I will give you a short review of each of what I thought generally. I have my hands on 2 more audios that I actually am really interested in, so regardless of if they get shortlisted or not, I will read. And then the rest of it is sort of, I've been struggling to get my hand on a few of them. Like Sister-in-Law, I'm really interested in. I've been first in line for ages at the library. I don't understand how the person that has it still has it. But anyway, I'm hoping it will be any day now. There's a couple more that I've started. Embers of the Hand, Why Fish Don't Exist, What the Wild Sea Can Be, The Peep Show, that I don't know, I just feel like that's not what I want to read right now. Or potentially that's just not in my interest for me, but I might revisit if they do get shortlisted. There's 2 that I'm like hard pass, which is Wild Thing, A Life of Paul Gauguin, and also The Eagle and the Heart, which, yeah, do not care for that. I've DNF'd Autocracy Inc. I read the intro, so I flipped through each section. There's like 7 sections, I think. And I read the conclusion, epilogue, whatever you want to call it, which was, I want to say 20 to 25 pages. That's the bit of the book that I felt was most self-aware. I had a lot of struggle with, I guess she's talking about the dictators who want to run the world. It felt very much like, are you or have you ever been a communist? It felt very much like we're going to talk about these countries that everyone in the US is taught to hate, whatever like is going on. And I know this book was published before Donald Trump was reelected, but it just felt really like the lack of self-awareness was really strong in the fact that so-called democracies use liberal practices, have issues with greed and lack of transparency, and our free presses that are owned by billionaires or whatever. It just feels like if we're going to talk about autocracy like practices and like thought processes, basically like how people get to that, like I feel like that would have been more interesting. I know that's potentially not what this book set out to be, but I thought to me it was very weird, especially coming from an American journalist. I do think like she does acknowledge some of these things in the conclusion, but to me that was just like far too little too late. Especially, and I know again this is sort of coming out in the current climate that we're living through, but I feel like I just saw news on how some sort of bodies in the world are thinking about how actually the US is showing its lack of actual democracy. Anyway, it's all a bit wild. Honestly, no, I just don't feel like reading this book anymore, so that's why I decided to be kind to myself and DNF it. So that's sort of like the general gist of that. The 4 books that I did read, I enjoyed, so I think that's really positive. That's very sort of opposite the fiction list that there's some okay, but I've not been enjoying that so far. On a weekend of DIY in the house, I was painting a lot. I put my headphones on and I listened to By the Fire We Carry by Rebecca Nagel. It's funny because I'd started before and I was really struggling to get like a lot of the, I guess, legal jargon and like the background and the history. There's a lot packed into this book, but when I restarted it on the day I was painting, and like I feel like my brain is free to actually listen, and actually it was really interesting, and I think I got a lot from it, like about historical fights, deals that have been done, the legacy of obviously colonialism, and also the legal system and how people have sort of been going around it, but then again sort of through now. There's some really weird things though, because it's really despicable, the kind of stuff that people have done that was used to then help the sort of the justice for native land. So yeah, a really, really fascinating book, I thought. A bit heavy, and I could see why a lot of people might DNF it, but I enjoyed it. Then the next day I listened to Private Revolution by Wang Yang, and I again thought this was a really strong book. I think it really hits the personal, with we're following 4 women. It's really funny though, because I feel like they were growing up, but I feel like it starts a long time ago, and I thought they were like mostly Gen X. Well, I guess that title doesn't really mean anything in a non sort of Western context, but I thought that that's what it was. But then some of them are like very coming of age, very much like in the last 15 to 20 years. So yeah, I thought that was really interesting, like the sort of progress of China. And obviously this is talking about, it's the coming of age in a new China, and it's like you see that going, or like the China, and then you see the personal lives, and like from their parents and growing up into their own, a lot of them like having children. So yeah, there's a lot of it that also stayed with me. I was at a conference this week on resistance and resilience, so in a political and artistic context as well. And I actually brought up an example that I heard in this book because I thought it was just so salient, I guess, so relevant right now. Then I finished reading the ebook that I had for Raising Hair by Chloe Dalton, and I thought that was just so beautiful, so well written. I love the observation. It's like very personal, but then you have all that kind of nature writing, and at the end, again, I feel like maybe it's a little bit too late in this instance for me. Like I feel like you get the larger like thought about this book from how can we live better with nature. Although she keeps focusing on the hair. She's like, how do we help the hair? And it's like, I understand this is a book about hair, but is this conversation generally about the animal world, about the natural world, about the climate, like all of these things that are a really fine balance. I did think that although all the ones that I read, this one was the one that felt like it had less of an impact at a sort of larger level, maybe not political, but also like the importance to like a lot of people. This book felt like the least relevant to me, even though I really enjoyed it. Like I think this was an excellent read, and I really recommend it, especially if you're interested in sort of that kind of story. But yeah, in terms of its relevantness. Finally, the last book that I read was The Story of a Heart by Rachel Clark. Oh my god. I think it's gonna be on my list of favorite books of the year for sure. I absolutely loved it. What an incredible book, what an incredible story. What I think I really enjoyed about this book is that it starts personal. It starts with a particular story, but then it grows massively. It sort of like takes the lens out into the historic context, into a scientific context, into like more of like how did we get to heart transplants? And it's truly fascinating. And then when you stop and think about it, it is almost like absurd, the fact that people actually experimented and found ways that we can literally just pick parts of bodies and be like, here we're going to put in this person and continue, extend their life. And in the case of this story, it's 2 small children, a little girl who dies in a car accident, and a little boy that has been very, very sick that is waiting for a heart. And I cried so much in this book, oh my goodness. And I don't cry a lot, I want to say nonfiction, but this was incredible. I literally told everyone about it. So yeah. And then I'm currently in the middle of reading 1,000 Threads by Ninette Cherry, and also I've just started listening to audiobook for Utlin by Jenny Fagan, and yeah, both of them as of now excellent. So yeah, I'm having a really good time, basically is what I'm saying. So let's get to the predictions, because this is what this video is about. I actually had a really hard time trying to do prediction, but top of my list for myself, but I think it's definitely gonna make the list, is The Story of a Heart by Rachel Clark. I just think it hits so many things. It's a personal, it's completely, touching story. It's historical, it's scientific, like it just lots of categories of nonfiction writing. The other one that I personally want on this list, even though I have not read it yet, is Sister-in-Law by Harriet Wistridge, and I think that that's sort of the aspect of the feminism that I think is really good to have in women's nonfiction. I think it'd be great to see it represented here. I also think they're going to include memoir. I feel like this is one of these other kinds of nonfiction types, like if I'm trying to pick, you know, different things. So I put that they would add Utland by Jenny Fagan. I'm adding this here because I think it's sort of been a very popular book. People really have said really like good things about it, and I think it's a really important message and story. So I feel like it's gonna go. And also this list has been very British, and this is a very British sort of memoir. But I also feel like they're gonna include 1,000 Threads by Nene Cherry, and I'm not gonna lie, and I know that's not how they pick books, but they need some diversity on this list. I don't think that long list was that diverse personally, so I feel like they have to add a little of that, which is also why I'm adding here Tracker by Alexis Wright. Like those two, I feel like are the only two non-British books that on my short list. There's actually not that much on the long list. Like I feel like By the Fire We Carry might be a little too heavy to make the short list, and Private Revolution, I mean, I could maybe see Private Revolution on it. To me, it wasn't a standout book. Like I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't a standout book, so I don't know if it would deserve a place on the short list, but you know, I'll be happy if it is. And otherwise, yeah, we have like What the Wealthy Can Be, sort of scientific again, so I feel like maybe they won't have two of them. Why Fish Don't Exist, oh god, I hope it doesn't make it. I don't want to read about this. And yeah, we're just forgetting about Paul Gauguin, let's be honest here. And in my last pick, I went with The Eagle and the Heart by Helen Castor, because, well, I had to pick a book that I wasn't super keen on, but I feel like British beloved British history, you know? So I feel like I might make it on the short list instead of like Emperors of the Hands or something like that. So yeah, that's my six. I hope Autocracy Inc. won't be on the list, honestly. I mean, I won't go and read it if it is. But I just hope it's not. I'm actually, having gone through it, I'm a little bit disappointed that they even shortlisted it in the current climate that we're in. Maybe this is one of the only political books they got, but yeah, I'm a little bit like, I'm not sure this is like reading the room right, if you know what I mean. Yeah, I'll be happy if Raising Hair's on it again. Then we have Agent Zoe. I've requested from my library because they just got it like a week or two ago. So yeah, I'll read it if it gets shortlisted, just like I'll go back to The Peep Show. But I feel like those have been sort of middling, you know what I mean? Like they're the book people are really excited about, the book that people don't really want to see or read. And then there's like the middle ones that people often don't talk about that much, or like, yeah, so I feel those are the ones. But I might get to them if they do get shortlisted. Anyway, I'm excited to see what the judges say tomorrow. I'll see if I'm excited or not. But yeah, so The Story of a Heart, Sister-in-Law, Utland, 1,000 Threads, The Eagle and the Heart, and Tracker. Let's see tomorrow. All right. Thank you so much for watching, and hey, see you back. Bye.